I'd like to talk to you a little about brain spotting and some of the developments in brain spotting over the recent few years, which we refer to as brain spotting through the neuro-experiential lens. What do we mean by this? I think oftentimes in approaches to healing, psychology, psychotherapy, psychiatry, we've often taken an approach that very much tries to focus on the explicit, the parts of human understanding that we can grasp, that we can know about, that we can create some form of certainty around with the models that we construct around diagnoses, prognosis, interventions, and some of the research that may back up these approaches. This has been helpful to a point. More recently, and for me, my journey into working with brain spotting and having the honor to train so many people in brain spotting, is that we take another level forward in healing. We move from the explicit to the implicit. By this, I mean, well, the idea that implicit is a sense of something folding back in on itself. And this is really important because with the implicit, we can't fully know and understand. We can't have conscious awareness of everything that's happening. In fact, very small amounts of the brain actually inform us what's going on. A lot of the brain and body operations are happening all the time outside our conscious awareness. So we have these different levels of understanding. And when we're looking into healing, emotional issues, trauma, and deep upsets, as well as looking at expansion and development and kind of building on the positives, if we're really working with the explicit, we're only just scratching the surface. And working with the explicit may feel safe and it may feel contained because we know what's going on. But it's really when we embrace uncertainty, when we embrace that there's a whole unimaginable universe of information that we can't grasp in our human minds, despite all of our science and intelligence and developments. Once we surrender to that uncertainty, we can actually come a lot closer towards deep, implicit, and long-lasting health and healing. It's a journey, but it's an important journey that we're on when we can accept, I suppose, and surrender a bit to the uncertainty principle. So with a neuro-experiential model to brain spotting, we're looking at different levels of understanding in healing. We're looking at the experiential level, which could be a sense of our conscious awareness, the explicit relationship with our senses and sensory perceptions. But then we need to go a level deeper. And this is where it starts to become a little less known as the water is less clear, it's a little murkier. We're not going to know exactly what's going on, because then when we move to the neuro and the neurobiological part of our work in the neuro-experiential model, then we're going to a lot of information that's not held in conscious awareness. It's being held at a deeper implicit level. Could be things from our childhood, things from our development, things that have been put away over time that we've learnt in a good way to gate out and to boundary and separate so that we can get on with our lives and survive. Yet they continue to have an effect on the system. They can manifest in ways that sometimes can feel uncomfortable. They can feel disturbing, and they can really kind of get in the way of who we know we can be in our full potentiality. When we're talking about the senses at the neurobiological level, we're not even just talking about seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and tasting. It's almost, and the other senses beside that, it's almost that every sense has another layer of a sense to it, something implicit, something perhaps more spiritual and deeper, that has an awareness and a collective understanding that brings all these things together. And we, in brain spotting, we really look to access and work with that level in our healing. So there's the experiential level, the neuro level, and then I like to expand that out a little more as well and think about it in the sense of, well, what's beyond all of that? What's behind it? in ancient philosophies that are kind of attached to various ways of thinking and modalities over at least 2,000 years. Talk about the difference between what I've been explaining here and prakriti, a kind of a sense of the known and a sense of who we are, of nature, of being human. And then it goes beyond that. It goes into the Purusha. And the Purusha is the sense of the actual true self. Now, that's not so much in a human form, that's more like consciousness. It's what's behind the human form, what's driving everything. There's a nice explanation of this relationship because it takes a little while to get one's head around and then continues to grow as we're getting to understand these concepts a little more. And there's the idea that almost like the sun is the Purusha, the sun is consciousness, the sun is kind of a collectiveness of everything in the universe that is integrated and together and encapsulated in a sense of oneness, if you like. So the sun is like the Purusha. And then a mirror, if you held a mirror up and to get a reflection of the sun, that's more like the Prakriti. It's more like the human form. So the sun informs the mirror, or the Purusha informs the Prakriti, and we can see and feel the sun consciousness through our human existence, the Prakriti. Yet never be fooled that the mirror affects the sun, influences the sun, or drives the sun. The sun is bigger and greater and behind all of the wonders and the reflection that are held in the mirror. And this is like a relationship, perhaps, between being alive and being human and being in our natural form, which is wonderful and a miracle in itself. But also, if we're cutting off and cutting out the idea of the greater consciousness, we're only ever working with a small amount of what can be grasped in therapy. And some of the more traditional approaches have come a long way in understanding those parts, but almost have eliminated the Purusha, the sun, the sense of consciousness, and all of the power and information that holds, not just in our lifetimes, but in ancestral and perhaps spiritual realms too. So when we're looking at the depth and complexity of healing, we need to be open and get out the way of ourselves so that we can access all levels of healing. What Brainspotting has done over the years is to develop a deeper awareness, understanding, and appreciation of these relationships. And as complex as these kind of conversations can be, I think one of the beauties of Brainspotting and Brainspotting through the Neuro-experiential model is that we really want to not complicate, but simplify to be able to reach and work into these levels of healing. The kind of things I'm talking about now, hopefully are interesting and perhaps a little confusing. And this is what happens with language. We end up trying to use a certain modality of communication to understand something that is beyond words. So my words will only go so far in really describing to you what I'm trying to get across. And the words in your brain that are kind of working on what I'm saying right now will only go so far in being able to appreciate and understand this. And this is why Brainspotting can be so wonderful, because when you're actually doing a process, it's really simplified. We'll often use, I'm just grabbing my points here, because this is a tool we use to get out the way of ourselves. With Brainspotting, we'll kind of go into the body, into sensations that are related to some powerful experiences and events in your life. There could be ones that have been really tricky and are quite activating, or there could be ones that are feel more positive and illuminating. And we can start to use ways to tap right into those. It goes well beyond the thinking brain, the neocortex, into the deep subcortex, which is also where many say we're kind of closest to our spiritual realm. And we can use eye positions, which seem to tap into the depth and understanding of those deeper parts of the body and the brain. And when we use eye positions and we find somewhere that really resonates with a strong and powerful feeling, this is when we start to combine all the parts of the brain and the process comes to another level where the Prakriti and the Purusha are operating together in safety the really important safety, collaboration, and co-regulation of you and your therapist as you're doing some brain spotting work together. I've trained in many models and they've all been useful, but with brain spotting, it can bring together all of your previous understandings and take your healing to another level. Yet, as well as the complexity, there's a simplicity within it. It's because really, we don't have to try and reinvent the wheel. We don't have to conjure up very complex ways of healing. We're programmed to heal. Nature has brought us this far. But as humans, and the complexity of our brains and thinking, it's largely learning how to get out the way of ourselves to do deep healing, inner connection, and the positive, affirming, and safe relationship with another person. This is an attachment perspective that's throughout all of our brain spotting work. So, brain spotting to the neuroexperiential model, if you feel ready, and if you're watching this, then maybe you are. I'd love to introduce you a little more into brain spotting, invite you to do a training with me and my wonderful team, and to see some of the impact and the benefits of brain spotting work on yourself and also on the people you work with and their healing journey. So just contact us. It's the usual contact numbers. Our website is bspuk.co.uk. And yeah, just get in touch, ask us some questions, and you can decide whether this feels like it could be something for you to expand your personal development as well as your professional practice, because they're not actually separate things at all. Hope to see you soon.